This is Doofy McButterscotch back again to continue with Dan Aykroyd's movies. Now to start with, Casper. Now this was a film that I grew up watching as a kid, and it was one of my all-time favorites. Watched it way too many times than I care to recollect. It's pretty good. It's got Bill Pullman in it, and this is again another Dan Aykroyd film where he stars in it for less than a minute, so it's not really one of his films, but it's still a really good movie. It's one of the classics, one of the all-time bests, when computer animation mixed with actual people was really, really good. The sequel to Casper wasn't as great, but, you know, sequels are real messy sometimes. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, but Casper is a really good film. It's got an excellent plot, terrific characters, a great villain, and it's one of my childhood classics, so I definitely recommend it. It's not so childish that you'll be like, "Aw, geez, so irritating watching this," like some films are, because some are way too childlike, but this one's actually good for all ages. So next up, Ghostbusters. Now I actually went out of order with the Ghostbusters thing. I watched Ghostbusters 2 before I watched Ghostbusters 1, so of course when I watched the first one it wasn't as great to me, because I'd watched the second one a whole bunch of times. When I actually got around to the first one, it was kinda not that good, but I think that was just my fault because I watched the second one before the first one, and it just didn't seem as good. Sure, if I did it the other way around it would have been different, but yeah, I kinda liked it. It's an alright comedy, got all that stuff going on, but it's okay. The second one, the one that I watched a whole bunch of times, I thought that was pretty nice. Now that I'm at this age and watching it, it's not as great, but it's still a pretty decent movie. Lots of great characters. It's got a new villain, which I thought was better than the first villain they had in the first Ghostbusters, so I'd recommend Ghostbusters 2 over Ghostbusters 1, my personal standpoint. Driving Miss Daisy. That's got Morgan Freeman and Jessica Tandy in it. I wasn't really that big of a fan. I don't think a lot of people would be big fans unless they're making fun of it, but it's just this old bat who's real uppity and kind of racist and picks on Morgan Freeman and abuses him a whole lot. He drives her around. It's one of those drama things, and eventually Morgan Freeman wins her over. Ah, yeah, but it's just one of those drama things that's about old people. So I wouldn't recommend it for the 20-year-olds out there unless you want to watch it just to put yourself to sleep. But yeah, Evolution, it's an alright comedy. It's got some laugh out loud points in it. If you want to get a chuckle, you could watch that. It's about aliens. It's got that one guy from Dude, Where's Your Car? It is an Ashton Kutcher. And yeah, it's just it's not as good as Men in Black, but it's still a good alien movie. Yeah, I'd recommend it. You'll like it. Trading Places. Now that's a real good classical movie that has stood the test of time as far as comedies goes. Some comedies, you watch them and they're really funny then, but years later they kind of suck. But this one's, it stood the test of time, like I said, doing It's about Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd is a rich guy, real uppity, and Eddie Murphy's this homeless guy, and he's got like next to nothing, and these other two rich guys who are Dan Aykroyd's boss, they decide to trade their places, and they make Eddie Murphy a real rich guy, and they make Dan Aykroyd a really poor guy. And eventually it all works out, but it makes for a really funny movie. You gotta see it if you haven't seen it already. My Girl, goodness gracious. That one wasn't that good. That was kind of a bummer. It's a drama movie, and I think it's supposed to be a little bit of a comedy, but if it was, it failed epically because it it's about that Home Alone kid. He plays an adorable guy that everybody likes, and then right at the very end, I'll spoil it because you probably don't want to watch it, he dies. Yeah, it sucks. It's not really that good. Spies Like Us, I thought that one was alright. It's got Chevy Chase in it. It's okay. Both of the Ghostbusters movies are probably better than Spies Like Us. I thought it was alright. It's got a few little chuckle scenes in it, but it's not as awesome as Ghostbusters. It's definitely going to be a lower comedy. You're not going to find it at the tip top of the list at your comedies or whatnot, but yeah, if you want to see it, you can see it, but I wouldn't recommend it. Dan Aykroyd as an actor, I think he's good. I like him. He's got some good one-liners. He's got a good personality. His characters are interesting. He never really plays a boring character or someone that you hate. He's pretty good. And I'd recommend his SNL disc showcasing all of his best moments. He's a good character. I like him. He's cool. Next up on the list, we will go to Kevin Bacon. Starting with Apollo 13, I watched this a lot in school. They just love showing this again and again and again. No matter how many times everyone else in the room had seen it, they just always show this. It's an astronaut movie. It's got Tom Hanks in it. They go up into the moon, maybe. I forget a few details. It's alright. But as I watched it a whole bunch of times repetitively, I kind of felt it was a little boring. But it's definitely better than most movies. And it looks like my time is running out, so we'll get back to Kevin Bacon in the next video. See ya!